from last night's elections. I have been up most of the night watching the election results, very nervous. But it is a kind of election that is the future against the past. In this case, Donald Trump reflects the past. He wants to continue the old economy as it has been going. He wants to continue the old energy systems based on petroleum or coal, that is, the fossil fuels. He is against science and technology. He's a man of the past. And yet there's a lot of attraction to holding on to the past rather than to making the transformation to the future. So as we speak, I'm hoping that by a very, very, very thin margin, Joe Biden will become president, because I think that this will be a vote for the future, for transformation of the U.S. economy and society. And I believe if he's president, good for all of the Americas, good for Colombia in Barranquilla, good for our future direction. What is the problem that we're facing right now? The challenge is that we are in the midst of major environmental upheavals and major social shocks. And let me explain those two. Obviously, this is the year of COVID-19. We have faced a pandemic disease that has been devastating. Our governments have not been very good at controlling this virus. Incidentally, the Asian countries, China, Japan, Korea, have been much, much better at controlling the pandemic than we have in the West. And so we should learn some lessons about that, because our governance has been very bad, including, of course, in the United States. It's been absolutely terrible. And we have had 230,000 deaths. But this disease outbreak is a kind of environmental crisis, because it is the result of a destabilized natural environment that is giving rise to new emerging diseases. It's the same reason why we've had more dengue fever, why we have had more Zika virus. It's the reason why we have had other new diseases like Ebola, like SARS, like the Middle East respiratory syndrome, because the destabilization of nature has led to the emergence of new diseases transferred from animal populations to human populations. But the environmental crises are, of course, even bigger than the disease crises, because we are experiencing the massive upheavals of human-made climate change, which results from the emission of carbon dioxide and other gases as a result of burning fossil fuels and other economic activities like chopping down the rainforest. And so we have destabilized the climate. This year, 2020, will be among the warmest years in history, maybe the warmest year ever. And that is despite La Nina conditions in the Pacific, which usually mean cooler temperatures. So we're on a path of global warming that is extremely dangerous, and that could lead to massive storms in the Atlantic, that could lead to disruptions of tourism, of course, and that could lead to a multi-meter rise of sea levels because of the destruction of the ice sheets of Antarctica and Greenland. We're also in the midst of massive deforestation and loss of biodiversity. And this is true especially, as you know, in the tropical forests of the Amazon and other tropical forests of the Atlantic region of South America. And the forest fires, the loss of vegetation because of the drying of the Amazon, the direct deforestation of the Amazon to make way for infrastructure, for roads, for petroleum, for hydroelectric, is all at a massive scale. And another environmental crisis similarly related is the pollution crisis. We are experiencing massive air pollution, water pollution, ocean pollution, plastics pollution. And so these environmental crises are all a reflection of an economic system that is oriented towards short-term profits, but not towards longer-term environmental sustainability. Now, at the same time, we are experiencing massive inequalities of income that generally are rising around the world. And here there are two, maybe let me say three reasons for this rising inequality. The first is technological. The digital revolution with robots, computerization, artificial intelligence, automation is causing many of our industrial and our agricultural and our service economy systems to become much more capital intensive, much more computer intensive, and many fewer jobs except for skilled workers. And so the result is that unskilled workers cannot find decent employment, and the inequality is therefore rising. A second factor is that the skill production in society is highly unequal. In your country and in my country, children of wealthy households receive a good education and go to university, whereas children of poorer households receive a low quality education, develop fewer skills, typically do not go to university, and therefore do not find the kinds of jobs that they need. And the third factor is that in most of our countries, public services like health and education are not provided adequately to the poorer parts of the population. And so for these three reasons, the technological changes, the differences of education, and the lack of adequate public services, our societies are seeing widening inequalities of income and persistent poverty, even as wealth increases. This is a huge set of challenges, obviously. And it is the reason why all of the governments of the United Nations, all 193 governments, 8 years ago, decided to adopt new goals that would be shared global goals for all of the world society to address the challenges of environmental crisis and inequality. And these goals were suggested by none other than your country, than Colombia, which under President Santos made proposals to the world to adopt los Objetivos de Desarrollo Sostenible. And those goals, those 17 Objetivos de Desarrollo Sostenible, were adopted in the year 2015 to make a roadmap for the future. And those 17 SDGs or ODSs were also combined with the agreements reached in Paris in 2015 to shift to renewable energy away from fossil fuel in order to achieve climate safety. So this is really our necessary framework. We have to change from an economy of widening inequalities and widening environmental crisis to an economy that is socially inclusive and environmentally sustainable. And los Objetivos de Desarrollo Sostenible give us the roadmap for how to accomplish this transformation. And this is the sense that we really are in una era de transformación, because we need to change course. Just going along with the Trump kind of economy, tax cuts for the rich, using fossil fuels, might generate some kind of profit, but it will not create a fair society or an environmentally sustainable society. And without that, we will just live in crisis as we are living now. Crisis of disease, crisis of climate shocks, crisis of inequality, crisis of instability. So we're in an era of instability, and we must transform to escape from that era. Now, I believe, and I'll summarize quickly, that Barranquilla, my city, New York, all of us need to undertake 6 basic transformations in order to achieve desarrollo sostenible. 6 basic transformations. The first is health for all. And we need health systems more than ever, first to stop this pandemic, to help people get vaccines when they are ready, and to have access to basic health care. I will be very happy to discuss this with you, with the Cámara de Comercio on a longer term, because creating a health system for Barranquilla that is adequate for all of the population and for Colombia is essential. And there's work to be done. Even though there has been a lot of progress, this pandemic shows that there are still major gaps. The second fundamental transformation is to quality education. I think that there is nothing more essential than quality education for young people. But unfortunately, when we look at the test results of students of Colombia, we don't see good performance. We see highly unequal performance between privileged parts of society and poorer parts of society. And overall, Colombia ranks quite low on the international scale when you make the systematic comparison around the world. Which countries rank high in quality of education, say at secondary school level, age 15? That's China, Taiwan, Korea, Japan, Singapore, Hong Kong. It is the East Asian countries. Again, I believe we need to learn from those countries how to install a high quality, rigorous education so that our young people have the skills that they need to stay ahead of automation, to participate in the digital economy, and not to be left behind, unemployed, and in poverty. So transformation number 2, quality education. Transformation number 3 is to renewable energy. And here there is good news for the Departamento de Atlántico and also bad news. The good news is you have a lot of wind power. You have a lot of solar potential. And this is very good because Colombia could have a 100% renewable energy system based on wind, solar, and hydropower. And it should move in that direction. All over the world, not the United States, but China, Japan, Korea, Europe, are all committing to move to zero emission energy systems. my state of New York, California, and many, many other countries around the world. And Colombia has the resources to make this move. And your department has wonderful wind resources that can be developed. And the cost of offshore wind power has been coming down very, very significantly, very rapidly. So I would urge that you have a plan for transformation to renewable energy that could help to power all of Colombia, after all, even parts of the Caribbean, other island countries. So this is the third transformation, is to a safe, clean, green energy system. The fourth transformation that is needed is to sustainable land use. And here, of course, Colombia is an amazing country because you have every ecosystem, both the Atlantic and the Pacific, the Sierra, the Selva, all aspects. It's a beautiful, your country is a magnificent country, and it has a highly diverse set of ecosystems. And you, of course, as a result, have wonderful agro-industrial products like the world's great coffee, but it needs protection. And I would point immediately and urgently to the Amazon basin, which is under destruction now, and with irresponsible neighbors, especially Brazil, unfortunately, that is not attending to the protection of this invaluable ecosystem. The fifth transformation is to healthful, sustainable urban environments. Our cities are changing dramatically as a result of clean energy, e-commerce, self-driving vehicles, electric vehicles. The whole city landscape is changing. People will work much more online from home. Are the cities ready for that? Can we make our cities more sustainable with cleaner air, better transport, better services? So the fifth transformation that I have on my list is urban transformation. Obviously, this is central for the Cámara de Comercio. And the final transformation that I've mentioned all through my remarks is the digital transformation. Digital technology is the most fundamental driver of economic change in the years ahead. We have mobile connectivity leading to distance education, online classrooms, telemedicine, e-governance, e-commerce, digital currencies that will transform our societies. And yet, when we look at Colombia, according to the data, under 60% of the population has access to the internet. This is actually a huge risk for your economy because we need universal access to high quality broadband internet, 5G technology, the so-called Internet of Things for smart, efficient power grids, for smart operations of cities. This again is where the Asian countries are moving very, very rapidly. And so I would urge Colombia and Barranquilla specifically to introduce policies to ensure universal access to digital services, and then to ensure that there is quality content available for telemedicine, for e-learning, for e-payment systems, for putting government services fully online as a way to be in the forefront of the digital world. And of course, Barranquilla is very interested in building its digital capacities. You already export back office operations, which require the digital platforms. But I think it is possible to develop an IT sector. It's possible to export digital services throughout the Americas, especially Spanish language digital services. And this is going to be a growth area for any city and any local economy that emphasizes the importance of digital innovation. These six transformations, in my opinion, the health, education, energy, land use, urban layouts, and digital transformations define the Sustainable Development Agenda. And the SDGs give the quantitative roadmap and the benchmarking metrics to ensure that you are on the way. Let me thank you for taking on the big challenges of transformation. What the Cámara de Comercio is emphasizing is extremely important. It is looking ahead. As I said at the beginning, we're in a struggle where the old ways persist, but the new ways need to be brought to life. And the Caribe Biz Forum is precisely looking at the transformations ahead. And let me finally assure you that in my capacity as an advisor to the United Nations and the president of the United Nations Sustainable Development Solutions Forum, with a regional headquarters at La Universidad de los Andes in Bogota, we will be with you, and I would be very delighted to continue to share ideas and compare strategies with Barranquilla in the days ahead. Thank you very much for having me today.